Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today.
We can come into your office, we can go and bring some lunch, and while your staff is getting fair, we can start discussing substance.
These pharma bros helped push fentanyl sales in the US. Now their boss is on trial for bribery. What really happened to Jussie Smollett? Police are still asking questions about his attack. How Jordanians are using their hair to help children suffering from cancer. And Monday's Animals Doing Stuff is a tabby making sure you tap in. All right, top of the newsfeed, fentanyl. Now, the drug is seen as a big part of what's called the opioid crisis in the United States. Now, a federal court case is laying out some of the, let's say, creative ways pharmaceutical companies have successfully pushed drugs onto hospitals, doctors, and by extension, the public. And a rap video is being used as evidence in that case. Denis explains.
We can come into your office, we can go and bring some lunch, and while your staff is getting fair, we can start discussing substance. Yes, Lord.
This video was first shown in 2015 to sales staff at Subsys Therapeutics Inc. It was meant to motivate them to sell more of the drug fentanyl to doctors and hospitals. Fentanyl is a highly effective synthetic painkiller. It's also highly addictive. It's the cause of nearly 50% of all drug overdose deaths in the United States. The US Centers for Disease Control says it can be up to 100 times more potent than morphine.
I love titrations, yeah, that's not a problem. And I got new patients and I got a lot of them. If you want to be great, listen to my voice.
The video was shown in a Boston court last week, where the founder of Subsys Therapeutics, Colin Kaepernick, is on trial for bribery. He and 4 other executives are accused of paying kickbacks to doctors if they prescribed an especially potent spray version of the drug approved to treat cancer to people who didn't have cancer. All 4 executives deny any wrongdoing. In October, US President Donald Trump signed a bill intended to deal with the country's opioid epidemic.
Together, we are going to end the scourge of drug addiction in America.
The legislation aims to limit imports of the drug, free up money for research into non-opioid painkillers, and improve and expand treatments for addicts. But there's no detail on how he plans to deal with pharmaceutical companies pushing people to get hooked in the first place.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media.
I am sickened that the Labour Party is now a racist, anti-Semitic party. I'm furious that the Labour leadership is complicit in facilitating Brexit.
Well, that was the former Labour MP Mike Gapes describing why he and 6 of his colleagues have quit the party and will now sit as independents. They blame the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, for not taking robust enough action in the face of allegations that the party has anti-Semitic members. Hashtag Labour split is a top trend worldwide.
So you can all see why I gotta fake this national emergency, right? I have to because I want to.
Well, Alec Baldwin has revived his Donald Trump impersonation on Saturday Night Live, and it did not go down well with the man in the White House, or rather Mar-a-Lago, where he was for the weekend. He wrote, "How do the networks get away with these total Republican hit jobs without retribution? Likewise for many other shows. Very unfair and should be looked into." Well, there was lots of reaction to that tweet calling for retribution. The Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu replied, "One thing that makes America great is that the people can laugh at you without retribution. The First Amendment allows Saturday Night Live to make fun of you again and again and again. You should read the Constitution." Now, a late-night attack on American actor Jussie Smollett is in the headlines again, this time because Chicago police say evidence has, quote, shifted, and they want to interview him about it again. Now, this after they released 2 suspects without charge. Smollett says his attackers used racist and homophobic slurs, but police haven't been able to find any CCTV of the incident. Now, Now, a restaurant in Serbia's capital is serving up international cuisine from far-flung countries which all have one thing in common. They don't recognise Kosovo's independence.
The saying goes, revenge is a dish best served cold, but not in this restaurant in the Serbian capital, Belgrade. It serves it hot and well presented.
Today's speciality from the Republic of Palau is prawns on 3 different purees. The prawns are in an orange sauce, served on potato and spinach puree, carrot puree and pea puree.
Last week, the tiny Micronesian island in the Western Pacific revoked its recognition of Kosovo, which declared independence from Serbia in 2008. Belgrade still considers it part of its territory. Some people here say small diplomatic victories like these are worth celebrating. Previous weeks have seen Madagascan meatloaf and Lesotho chicken kebab served to hungry diners.
In August 2017, we started preparing dishes of the countries that don't recognize Kosovo. We have made dishes from 65 countries since then, out of which 13 got special preference on the list because they withdrew their recognition of Kosovo.
Efforts by the EU to normalise relations between Kosovo and Serbia are once again in a stalemate. But in this quiet corner of Belgrade, some diners say failed diplomacy can leave a good taste in the mouth.
Well, thankfully, there seems to be growing awareness about the amount of waste we as humans create and the effect it will have on the planet. But can anything be done to effectively deal with the damage it's causing?
We create a lot of trash, and when I say a lot, I mean 3.2 million tons of plastic and other solid waste every single day. That's almost the weight of 1.4 million adult male giraffes, and that doesn't even include all the toxic chemicals we're pumping into the oceans, land, and air. Here are just 5 types of waste that could wipe out life as we know it. Number 1. Modern industries manufacture lots of useful products and technology, but the process has a byproduct, toxic waste, which is anything that can cause serious health problems or even death. Every second, about 310 kilograms of toxic chemicals are released into the environment. Since the start of this video, about 12,000 kilos of harmful and sometimes deadly pollutants have already been let loose. By the end of the year, it'll be about 10 million tons, or almost 4 million giraffes, which end to end could go more than halfway around the world. So where does all of this toxicity come from? Well, we use a lot of minerals and metals in our everyday life, and the whole process of getting them out of the ground releases mercury, lead, and other toxins into the environment. This can contaminate the ground and water, and if vaporized and breathed in, these toxins can cause developmental disorders and affect the central nervous system. The truth is that 90% of the world's youth are breathing toxic air, and no one knows what the long-term consequences will be. Number 2. Plastic waste is near the top of the list for having the ability to royally screw up humanity's future. Plastics are great, but they come with a lot of problems. First, when people digest small plastic particles, they can seep dangerous chemicals into the body. And then there's the waste. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the Pacific Ocean is one of the most glaring examples. There's an estimated 1.6 million square kilometers of trash floating between California and Hawaii. That's like 3 Frances put together. All of this garbage is wreaking havoc on the ocean life and could eventually end up back in our bodies. Above ground, there are countless other landfills choked with plastic waste, which scientists estimate could need up to 1,000 years to decompose. And since plastics have only been around since 1907, no one knows what the real long-term effects on the Earth will be. Number 3. We've had nuclear power plugged into commercial grids since 1954. Now there are 450 plants operating worldwide, with more under construction. The waste generated from them is potentially the most dangerous of all due to the amount of time radioactive materials remain harmful. Strontium-90 and cesium-137 lose half their radioactivity in about 30 years, but plutonium-239 takes 24,000 years. This is serious. How do we plan to keep radioactive waste safe for that long? Right now, there's no good answer. Permanent disposal sites are few in number and far between and generally consist of what's called deep geological disposal, which is just a fancy name for holes anywhere between 250 to 5,000 meters deep. Radioactive waste gets packed in metal containers, lowered in, then filled over. Critics say this may lead to disaster. An earthquake or groundwater flow could spread radiation far and wide. And since it doesn't have any odor or color, those affected may not even know they've been contaminated until it's too late. Number 4. In order to get many products ready for human use and consumption, they need to go through chemical processes, which can create lots of harmful environmental waste. In Southeast Asia, tanneries alone produce up to 7.7 million liters of wastewater and nearly 80 million tons of solid waste every single day. Due to a lack of regulations and enforcement, many factories just dump them straight into rivers and lakes, contaminating the water and potentially causing sickness and severe developmental disabilities. In the worst affected areas, children are born with birth defects, lose 30 to 40 IQ points, and life expectancy can be as low as 45 years because of cancer and other diseases. Number 5. Did you know that it takes 9,500 liters of water, 5.5 kilos of grain, 16 kilos of topsoil, and the energy equivalent of almost 4 liters of gasoline to produce just 450 grams of fed-lot beef? So when meat is thrown out because it's past its expiry date or just left on the plate, all those resources go to waste as well. This goes for all food, and in many cases, the deforestation and pesticides needed to grow the food or raise livestock also contribute to the waste problem. In America, healthy dieters who eat more fruits and vegetables have actually been found to be the most wasteful, tossing out tons of produce every single year. So, what do you think is the answer?
All right, let's go around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Monday. There are a growing number of people who incredibly think the Earth is flat, and researchers at Texas Tech University say YouTube is to blame. They found that people who watch conspiracy videos on YouTube were more likely to start thinking that the Earth was flat. YouTube said last week that it was stopping conspiracy videos from auto-rolling on the site. Colin Kaepernick may soon be signing a new NFL team, according to his lawyer. Last week, Cap settled a claim against the NFL that action had been taken against him. He'd accused the club owners of colluding not to sign him after he began taking a knee in protest against police brutality. Now, one of the clubs looking at signing Kaepernick is said to be the New England Patriots, who are owned by a guy called Robert Kraft, who's very vocal on social justice issues. Now, the Herra Initiative in Jordan is trying to boost the spirits of children suffering from cancer. Take a look.
يعني انت لما يشعروا انه في انسان جنبهم، في انسان بيدعمهم، في انسان فكر فيهم انه هو رايح يتبرع في شعره اللي هو اشي غالي، فهذا الاشي راح يساعد جدا في علاج.
هي فكرة مهمة لانه في اطفال مثلا ما بيحبوا انهم يطلعوا بدون ما يكون في لهم اشي شعر.
الثانيين شعر وبنحبكه وبنجمل لهم اياه وبنرجع لهم كيف كان شكله قبل. سبب رئيسي كثير كبير انه الطفل المريض والطفله عندهم اهتمام شخصي في جسدهم، في وجوههم، لانه شكلهم الطبيعي عندهم اياه هو علاج، اكبر علاج له الطفل المريض.
And last up, we have an animal kind of doing stuff, but not really doing much at all. Now, a video of this cat greeting people at the turnstiles of an Israeli train station has gone viral. Now, she's a stray, but likes to hang out at the station at Petah Tivka and get a pat from the passengers who pass through. That's all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter and YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. See you tomorrow.